Hello, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. To me, it's good afternoon. It's 5 in the afternoon here where I am in Portugal. Welcome to my stream. Today, as you can see in the details, we are going to be talking about news from a European perspective. We are going to be talking about a lot of things from FIFA to migration to all of that. And more to the end of the video, I'm also going to address a couple of things that I want to address that is related with the American economy and what is happening right now. I'm also going to talk how that reflects in our European economy, be it in the EU or in the United Kingdom. And I'll also address briefly what is happening in the East with Ukraine, but today this video will be more focused on these types of news that I have to show you. I have a couple of videos to show you too. Some from Euronews. This is the base that I have been using because I find their videos the best to convey news. This is my opinion, of course, but they are sometimes a bit dry and not very complete. But when it comes to the news, I prefer facts to fiction, and that is just how I am. Now, folks, without further ado, I'm going to start. First, we are going to talk about FIFA and all of the crap that has been going on. If you don't know this, that idiot Infantino, now he wanted to go public with FIFA and and do all sorts of shit. So let's see how that is going. Hi Billy Kusher, welcome my friend. Now, without further ado, let's watch the first video. I have a couple of videos to watch with you about this subject so that you can see how things can change in a matter of hours. Let's watch.
World football's governing body FIFA has vowed to press ahead with a controversial private investment plan despite widespread opposition to the proposal. On Thursday, Europe's football union UEFA declared it would boycott future FIFA World Cup competitions if it went ahead with Gianni Infantino's plan. Later, North and Central America's CONCACAF shared that all 41 of its member associations also rejected FIFA's proposal to sell a stake in the business operations of the World Cup. Infantino's project was announced on Tuesday when he wrote to members that if they approved of the proposed FIFA Forward Enterprise commercial subsidiary, 20% owned by private investors, their funding would double to $20 million for the next 4 years. Infantino has proposed FFE would run events such as the World Cup and Club World Cup. The core investor would be a New York investment firm created by Joshua Kushner, the brother of U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. While FIFA said it would go ahead with the consultation process for the proposal, it appeared to then back off from the commercial subsidiary, saying without the support of its 211 member associations, FFE would not be established.
Thank you, everybody. Now, this is the first video. This one was when FIFA apparently already had decided everything, meaning they would go forward with this, whatever people said. They were not counting on the individual countries to tell FIFA, basically and quite loudly, verbatim, fuck off. Because football, not soccer, soccer doesn't exist. Football, it's not just of FIFA. It's not just even of the individual countries. Football is a sport that for us that like it, I don't go to games much, but I have my reasons. But I like football. I like to play it. I like to play it with my friends. It's an integral part of my life. You go to South America, it's also a part of their lives, okay? And having the World Cup in the United States greatly diminished what the World Cup means. I didn't watch one single game. I didn't buy one piece of merch. And Mr. Infantino, he knows that because it wasn't just little old me, insignificant one person in the world, that didn't watch the games, that didn't went to America, that didn't pay their extortionary prices, and that did not buy the merch. Around here, I saw it. Okay, merch only started to appear around. Oh, let me just put it this way: before I'm going to remember a random World Cup, Mexico '86. Before that World Cup began, I remember that at least a year or two before, you already had video games, you had T-shirts. I had one that my dad bought me when we went into a fair. I also had a game. I don't recall what was the console that I was using. It wasn't the Mega Drive. It was a Master System or something like that. Okay, it was a Sega console. I still didn't have my Mega Drive. I remember all of that. And already the merch was, and in each and every World Cup, you always have this. You have the FIFA games, for example, video games. You have sodas with the FIFA logo. And around here, I only started to see glimpses of some kind of merch about it. I don't want to be a liar, but I would have to say less than a month before it was to start. And in the TV, they didn't have those massive campaigns to promote it hour by hour. Even when the Portugal was playing that, but that also has to do with the fact that none of us Portuguese liked the way our team was playing. I didn't watch the games, but my brothers they watched them, and they said that they were playing like bloody amateurs. And from the little that I saw from the reruns in the news agencies and all that, I agree with them. But that can be a factor. But the truth is, no one gave a shit about the World Cup. People ignored it, and that is not normal. That is absolutely not normal. Even when Portugal won the games, usually, whatever the time of the night it is, and in this case the games, because of the difference of time, the games were during the night. When Portugal won, everybody would grab a car and go honk. It's a quick thing. Okay, people don't go on parades and doing all sorts of things, except if Portugal had won something relevant or something like that. But it's just a way of saying we won. Okay, and not even that I watched this World Cup. I watched people, the ones that went there, extremely worried about their family members that went to the World Cup. And I can tell you that the numbers were very, really very low. It was, look, to give you an example, it was lower than the entire number of tourists going to America from Portugal in a year. It was much lower than that. And that is not normal because people here in Portugal, in Spain, in France, in Italy, in the UK, okay, that a lot of people went from Scotland and from England. They went to watch the games, but people, they save up all a year round to have enough money to go to the World Cup and watch the games and enjoy their vacation days. All right, I didn't see that. In fact, I saw absolutely the opposite. I even commented on it. I know a friend that he is absolutely someone that the type of friend that is really a friend. You understand, the type of person that you speak with almost every day, even if online. He usually saves up to go to the World Cup year round. When it's a World Cup, when it's Benfica playing, or when it's Portugal playing, he saves up money to go and watch the games wherever they may go to play. And this year, he just told me something. He told me that it wasn't worth it, and that he was going to use that money to take his wife and his daughters to on a North Sea cruise. It was a it was much better to spend this money that way. And this is the general spirit that I saw here when it came to the World Cup. People simply didn't give a fuck. People didn't care. Okay, and they are tired. They are tired of all of the corruption. They are tired about the extortionary prices of games. Stadiums are getting to be empty. The clubs, they don't like it. They want to control more the prices of the games, of the ticket sales, because they know if they can, because they know they will sell more tickets and fill up stadiums and earn more in terms of advertisement and sponsorships and all of that if they have filled stadiums. And they don't have filled stadiums right now. And FIFA and all of this shit and the way they are approaching football, it has a lot to do with that. They are absolutely murdering the show. Why? Because we are allowing corporations to mingle into things they should not. And I, I think it's changing, but it's changing because they know they will not be able to do anything positive on their side if they continue this route. Now, let's watch the next video, the most recent video about how this entire shit is going. And you will see I mean with they are trying to change their ways. Let's watch.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino said on Saturday that he has scrapped a plan to allow private investment in the World Cup following fierce backlash from football officials worldwide. In a statement, Infantino said the project had created divisions that were, quote, no longer in the interest of the objective set out. The plan was to let outside investors take minority stakes in a new subsidiary running FIFA's commercial operations, including the World Cup. Infantino said the venture could have raised nearly 20 billion euros, but the idea triggered an outcry, with UEFA threatening to boycott FIFA competitions altogether, insisting the World Cup, quote, cannot be treated as an investment product. The controversy has piled pressure on Infantino, already under fire over the running of this year's World Cup, and led to the resignation of a senior advisor.
And there you go. Mr. Infantino has to learn something. Something that football clubs managers have discovered a long time ago. Being the manager of a football club can be a very profitable activity. You can earn a lot of money. You can have a lot of influence even in society, because when you talk, people hear you. But if you lose the support of the people that watch the game, of the people that buy the newspapers, now online newspapers, that watch the news, that buy the merchandise, okay? If you lose the support of those people, the game is worthless. You cannot transform the even with all of this shit that they did with the hydration stops that were basically an excuse for American companies to pump in more advertisement, like they do with the so-called sports, like that mutant version of rugby they call football, even though they run around in a stadium with armor and with a weird football ball in their hands. Why not just watch rugby that I played, and that it's much better to watch. It's a thrilling game. It's a hard game. Okay, it's not for everyone, but why not watch it? But I'm sorry. I'm ranting again. Let me get back to business. He discovered that he cannot sell off the game. And he forgot who is the backbone of FIFA. The backbone of FIFA are essentially two areas of the planet. And look, and I repeat this, I'm not undermining the role of other nations and other regions in the sport. But I'm just mentioning the most important ones, which are Europe and South America. These two players told him, Mr. Infantino, in all caps, go fuck yourself. You are earning money, enough money. Get back into the business of doing your job, earn your money, and stop trying to please the Kushners and Mr. Trump and all of that crap. Because didn't you notice that the investor would be the brother of the son-in-law of Trump? Is that a coincidence? Do you believe in coincidences? I don't believe in coincidences. I never had. To me, coincidences and luck, it's not random. Luck is not random. Like the ancients used to say, luck is when preparedness finds an opportunity. Reason why, even though if I play the lotto sometimes, I don't believe in luck or random events. And I do as my dad used to tell me to look when you are trying to see who is going to gain, why something is happening, why an event is happening. You just go back and you see who will benefit from it. Follow the money trail, my son. You know, over the years, my dad left me when I was very young. I wasn't even 20 when my dad died. And I really miss him because he was a type of person that would, much different than me, a very funny person, a very talkative person, a very good person, a very cheerful person. But he also had this ability of not taking things as they are. Always look beyond. And he always used to tell me these things. He also told me to, when I don't know what is happening, and my uncle also told me the same thing, the cop, when I don't know why something is happening, shut up and listen. Listen twice. Listen twice rather than talking twice. And if we go to this pitiful attempt of Mr. Infantino to monetize the World Cup, then we can see what he was doing. He was trying to please his little bribers, his little retainers of Mr. Trump and the entire that entire mob. To me, Trump, the Kushners, all of this family in the Republicans, they are all a bunch of mobsters. That look, if we go and look at their reasons for power, it's very simple. They're there just for greed, pure greed. There are no noble ideas behind whatever they say. They are just there for greed. Hello, Mithril. Welcome, my friend. Okay, there are nothing behind it, and this entire project of FIFA with Infantino, this is going all to end. Even Infantino and the way that he's running the World Cup, this is also going to end. I heard people in charge of football here, and more important than that, people in countries, you know, presidents, PMs, sports ministers, education ministers here, telling that this has to end, this monetization of sports, this over cooperation creation in football. Because you know what? For example, football clubs here in Portugal and in most of Europe and in Europe in the sense of the EU, okay, and in the United Kingdom too, they have a different status than some companies. They are of public interest because they provide sports for children, because they provide events of sports, because their stadiums are also used and paid for. A lot of the municipalities used for other sporting events like track and field, you name it, okay, and different sports. And Mr. Infantino, he surely knew that UEFA was telling them, you go forward with this shit, then we won't be a part of it because we are not going to. And also, I think it's CONCACAF in South America. We are not going to be a part of this because we are going to lose our subsidies and our grants and our tax exemptions in our countries. Because if you do this, if you bring in foreign investors, if you transform what should be a sporting event, organized sporting event, into a corporation, we are going to lose all of the investments that we have. We are going to lose the tax exemptions. And half of the football clubs in Europe are going to go down. I will give you an example right here of Portugal. All clubs have it, but the three main clubs, or classic clubs, how we call them, the three big ones, os três grandes. But there are also other clubs, but they are not just in that tier. But the three largest clubs here in Portugal, Benfica, Sporting, and Porto. These three clubs, they have. It's not just football. They have football. They have so-called houses of House of Benfica, House of Sporting in different towns, that where a private buys the franchising of the club, so it's dedicated to that club house with a restaurant, with a dining hall, kind of a neighborhood club. And the people that those types of business they pay less taxes because they are doing a social activity. They have track and field, they have different sports, they have handball, they have volleyball, you name it. So they are intertwined in their activity with the state, because the state is also using them to provide sporting events, sport activities to a large number of the population. And look, and that is absolutely good and something that should happen, okay? Because you are transforming the football clubs and all of that sports clubs into a part of the function of the state. Because if you don't know this, Americans, around here sports, it's not just something to make money off. Sports is also a part of the health and entertaining of the population, and that is a completely different perspective from the perspective that you have in the United States. Mitro, let me just read your comment, my friend. Have lunch, Blatter and Infantino FIFA has been poorly served by self-serving, corrupt people for too many years. Absolutely right. I agree fully with you. I think we need to remove a lot of the corruption in football, and maybe what just happened is a sign of things to come. I'm fully even the EU got into this. I tried to find the video where I heard Costa talk about it, but even they got into it, saying that perhaps it's time to find an entity that is not financed like FIFA. In my opinion, that would be the correct way. Create an entity financed by all the countries that are a part of the entity, and they should be responsible for organizing games and all of that, because FIFA, it's all corruption and shit, and the way that they handle themselves in this World Cup, the price of the tickets, all of this shit, greed and pettiness that accompanied this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, folks, now we are going to talk about misinformation and migration and invasions and all of the crap that has been pouring out in the right-wing media and in the left-wing media too, because when it comes to the end, they are both as shit, in my opinion. I don't really make a difference between a right-wing idiot and a left-wing idiot when they start behaving the same fucking way, each of them screaming at their personal demons. One is screaming one demon, the other is screaming the other demon. The only difference is that at least the left wing is not trying to burn down the countries, but barely. But we are going to watch a couple of videos, and I'm going to show you how things went. Okay, so let me just read this comment by Mithill. So sadly, I worry about my team, Manchester City. I've supported them through thick and thin for over 50 years. I don't think I can much longer though. Yes, okay. I was also a supporter of Benfica, okay? And I also had to leave it because it was becoming too much to me. Too much in terms of fees, too much in terms of demanding things. And it came to a moment a couple of years ago. It came to a moment that I simply said, look, enough is enough. I don't have any time or money for this shit. Let them be. Now I'm a supporter, and that is all. Because I don't know how it is in the United Kingdom, but at least here in Portugal, you don't change your football club. The one that you choose is the one that you will have your entire life. Now, folks, let's watch this video.
At least 60,000 migrants crossed into Spain's Ceuta enclave in the span of 24 hours, government officials said on Friday, sparking what Spain described as the biggest crisis since at least 2021. The border crisis boiled over on Thursday and escalated overnight as Spain deployed its military to restore order. Dozens of people have died trying to reach the Spanish territory bordering Morocco, police sources said. France said it will tighten its border with Spain, announcing the activation of the Rapid Intervention Border Force for in-depth inspections. Italy called for Spain to be excluded from Europe's Schengen open border zone, prompting Spain to summon Italy's ambassador and accuse Rome of using the crisis for political gain. A Spanish Supreme Court ruled earlier this month that immediate returns of migrants crossing the border illegally did not apply to those arriving by sea. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said on Friday that the sudden influx of migrants was caused by trafficking mafias spreading false rumors about the recent court ruling, which does not apply to land border crossings.
Now, this was the event. This is what happened. And there are also rumors, okay, there are also rumors that the CIA, yes, the CIA was paying those criminal groups in the other side or in Morocco. They were paying them to do this shit. And if these suspicions are confirmed, this is going to spark a diplomatic war with the United States. It's already brewing. And I'm going to warn everybody that is listening to me right now, okay? don't call this fear mongering, because it's not fear mongering. Okay, I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about what I read and what I see. The tensions between Europe and the United States, they are going to grow even more. As the crisis in the Hormuz Straits tightens the purse of everyone around the world, as the United States becomes more belligerent, positions are going to be hardened in Europe. And I think some bridges are going to be burned. In fact, I would question if there are any bridges at all right now. Especially with the last speech of Trump, that I'm not going to talk about. But I think that the CIA is behind this and other events. They are doing this. They are actively trying to destabilize Europe. And what they don't know, apparently, or they are so stupid that they think they can do it without anyone noticing, is that this was detected by the European authorities. They don't know, for example, that Portugal and Spain, we have intelligence agencies, and we speak more languages than they do. We have more contacts than they do. They don't understand this, okay? Because the Americans, their idea is that of this current administration. And if you are an American and you are listening to me, please understand this. I'm not talking about you as a citizen. I'm talking about your government, and I'm talking about the people that run your government. And I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats alike. Because to me, Johnny Foreigner, like the English say, they are the same fucking thing. And yes, I swear in my streams, and I'm not monetized, and if it offends you, well, too bad. I swear. Like a sailor sometimes. Always. But as I was saying, there are rumors, and you want to know, when I start to listen to a rumor in Portuguese, in Spanish, in French, in Italian, and in German, when I start to listen to the same type of speech, and when I start to look at the sources and how they crisscross, because this is how again, very quickly, I will explain to you how you can also do a bit of fact checking without needing to subscribe to software programs online. Okay, you just pick a sheet of paper and you divide it, and on each side you put the opposite positions, and then you watch several news feeds, several sources of information that in my case they come from chats, they come from direct messaging, they come from talking with my friends, they come from watching the news in more than one language, all of that, and then you put them in each column. And then you see where the information coincides. 99% of the times, that event is real. Or at least, based on the proof, it can be real. And this is not normal. It's normal to have a couple of thousand people every year trying to enter in Ceuta. If you don't know what Ceuta is, it has an interesting story. Spain coming into possession of Ceuta began as such. First, Ceuta was conquered by the Portuguese, or better yet, given to the Portuguese. Portugal and Morocco, we were in a war, and then to make peace, so to speak, to end the war, the Moroccan ruler of the time allowed Portugal to occupy Ceuta. And from then on, it became an enclave of Portugal. Portuguese people and Moroccan people live there, just like now Spanish people and Moroccan people live there. And Portugal, then it was used as a port to trade with Morocco. So Moroccan traders would come to the city and they would buy European products that Portugal would bring, and we would buy products from North Africa that the Moroccans would bring. Okay, this is the simple story. Then, during the periods of 1580 to 1640, Portugal was under the rule of Spain, meaning a Spanish king inherited the throne of Portugal. In 1640, when we had our Revolutionary War to kick the Spanish out, Ceuta was one of those cities that remained loyal to the Spanish king. They did not want to adhere to the Portuguese to the new Portuguese king that came from a collateral family member of the previous king. Okay, to be very simple. And that is how Ceuta, just with other cities like Melilla and Tangiers and all of that, stayed within the Spanish scope of influence. This is how it remained, and from then on, it became Spain. It's part of Spain. Is it correct or not for Spain to have a city in North Africa? Well, I don't know. To me, that is something that the Spanish and the Moroccan people should talk about. But usually, in terms of economics, it's actually beneficial for the Moroccans to have that little bridge in Europe to Europe in their own territory. Of course, you have the nationalists that don't want them there, naturally, but I won't go into that. But this is just for you to see a quick history background of the city. Now, it's normal for migrants to try to enter in Ceuta to gain access to Europe, to migrate to Europe. But in these quantities, no. In these quantities, this was something that had to be organized. And somehow, I don't think that a bunch of traffickers of people that organize boats or organize ways of putting people into boats and whatever to go to Europe or whatever, collect the money and run. Somehow I don't think they would all organize and do this. This is why the CIA hypothesis is more and more valid, in my opinion. And I'm seeing a lot of disruption that happens in Europe that you can trace back to the CIA. And to Israel, let's not forget. You cannot divorce Israel from the United States because they are one solely entity right now. They are acting as such. So, I will keep monitoring this, but now I'm going to show you what has happened in these few days after that. Okay? Well, let me just read the comment. Mithril, I always find it amazing that Portugal is the UK's longest continuous ally on the world stage. Well, my friend, you are not alone. A lot of betrayal in the middle, but to tell you the truth, if you speak with the average Portuguese person in the street, they would not consider cancelling the alliance. This is the only thing. I won't give you my personal opinion, at least not in the context of this video. And as for you saying the Spanish don't feel the same about Gibraltar, you have to look at the difference. When we are talking, look. First of all, like I told you, this is a subject that the Spanish and the Moroccans have to decide. But what happened? The Spanish, like the Portuguese before them, they did not demolish mosques or expel the Moroccan people from the city. No. The people that were there, they continue to be there. You will find mosques and Muslims in the city, you will find people that speak Arabic, the language of the Moroccans. Okay, you will see programs on Spanish TV that includes Ceuta and the people that live there that are not Spanish ethnically. Let's call it like this. They are Moroccans. So it's like an extent of Spain, and there are historic reasons behind it. When you look at Gibraltar, Gibraltar was basically stolen by force. The inhabitants that lived in Gibraltar were all kicked out of their houses, kicked out of their properties, and then the United Kingdom brought in people and installed them there. So it was basically a settling. And there is a big difference between expelling the natives, let's call it like this, from their land to install people that are favored to you and do it for military reasons. Let's not forget about it. It all has to do with the control of the passage of boats in the Straits of Gibraltar, and between a piece of land that over the centuries, and remember that there was a time when Morocco had conquered parts of the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, remember that. So there is historic precedence, there are connections, and all of that. There is a big difference about it. But this question, I am going to be talking about Gibraltar too. Well, we are going now to continue with the video. First of all, hello Indie Dark Mel, welcome. Now, let's watch the next video, and this one is, I have two videos about this subject, but first of all, let's watch this one about what Italy and France decide.
Interior Ministry has ordered the closure of the country's sea and air borders with Spain, temporarily suspending the Schengen free movement regime between the two countries. The decision was announced by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Deputy Prime Ministers Antonio Tajani and Matteo Salvini following the arrival of thousands of migrants in the Spanish North African enclave of Ceuta. Responding to the move, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez hit back at Italy, arguing on X that solidarity and empathy are optional, but respect for European treaties and facts is not. Sanchez, who earlier described the mass crossings as a, quote, violation of Spain's territorial integrity, cited Frontex figures showing that Italy recorded more irregular entries than Spain between 2021 and 2026. Meanwhile, Spain's Interior Ministry says more than 48,000 of the migrants who have entered Ceuta since early Friday have already returned to Morocco voluntarily.
Now, first of all, the suspension of Schengen. Okay, and now I have also here a video that concludes this one. But first of all, let me explain you to this. The treaty of free movement, it can be suspended by any country for particular reasons. For example, during COVID, Portugal suspended the free movement in our borders precisely because of COVID. Okay, and there was a reason, and Spain agreed. Remember that the only land border that we have is with Spain, and this was a reason. Recently, when Germany started the process of deporting a lot of their illegal migrants, they also, a lot of countries around Germany, they also suspended the Schengen Treaty in order to allow a control, so that the people that were here, that were in Germany, they would not run away, so to speak, to another country using the Schengen freedom of movement, and thus become a problem in another country. Okay. Just recently, around 50 Indians that were illegally here in Portugal and that had been ordered to leave the country they used this freedom of movement to go to Spain, and then Spain deported them back to Portugal, and Portugal deported them back to their home nation. Okay, so all of these questions, all of this is absolutely normal. In this case, I'm going to tell you this, and it might seem unpopular. I understand that, but I think Meloni and I think France, they were right. Sorry, but I think they were right, because this puts added pressure over the Spanish government to solve this. What I do not agree is, and what Sanchez said, solidarity is optional. What I do not agree is with the fact that they did not provide some kind of support to Spain too, because this is a very serious situation, okay? And if you can help, and in this case, Spain and Italy, they are the most suited. France and Italy, they are the most suited to help for Spain in this issue. It should have provided more help, okay? But look, that is one of the issues that the EU has. Like I said before, I don't agree with many of the policies of Meloni, but I do understand this. She's very smart, she's very ruthless, and she got all of the old fascists in her party to bend the knee to her. So, not someone you would like to make jokes about or say that she begs like Mr. Trump did, and we all saw what happened in the world stage. But I think this is just a question of bad words and bad policies. I think Spain and France should have demonstrated more empathy, especially because we are talking about people, folks. Okay, we are not talking about bloody numbers. Even if it was a CIA, like I am being telling you, that this is my conviction. This was a CIA paid coup movement trying to destabilize Spain, and they are going to do many more in the future. I have no doubts about it. But these are people. Okay, these are people. These are people, and we have to treat them as people. When I say illegal, I mean illegal in the country. I'm not some kind of idiot, Farage, that thinks that people are legal and illegal. People are not legal or illegal. People may be illegally in a country, but they're still bloody people. Okay? They are all a bunch of fucking apes. So don't go there. Now, folks, now let's look at the latest video that concludes the entire situation.
Thousands of migrants have begun making their way back to Morocco after realizing they will not be able to remain in Ceuta. According to the Interior Ministry, more than 48,000 of the nearly 50,000 people who crossed the border illegally have already returned to the neighbouring country. Meanwhile, the Guardia Civil and the army maintain a heavy presence on Tarajal beach to prevent further entries by sea. On the other side of the border, clashes continue between groups of young people and the Moroccan police, who are using tear gas and water cannons to disperse them. In Ceuta, activity remains virtually at a standstill. Businesses are closed due to the lack of security. The Spanish government asserts that virtually all of those who entered have already returned to Morocco. Furthermore, it insists that it is not possible to travel from Ceuta or Melilla to the mainland without passing through police checkpoints. Therefore, according to the government, the integrity of the Schengen area is guaranteed.
Okay, folks. Look, this is the same as, for example, imagine you were illegal and you arrive at the Madeira Island in the Atlantic Ocean here in Portugal. You would not be able to travel to the continent, to Portugal, and enter the Schengen area. You would be detained there, and then, according to your situation, you would be deported back to your own country, or if you had legitimate reasons to ask for asylum, you would be transferred to a detention camp. It's not a detention camp, okay, but let's call it like this way because in English it's easier for you to understand. You would be transferred to a camp in in mainland Portugal, and there you would await your process. Now, also, you have to consider this. Those 2,000 people that arrived, they might still be in Ceuta for a number of reasons. For example, if they were injured during the crossing, imagine if it was, for example, a pregnant woman, all of those humanitarian things, they are taken care of here in all of Europe, not just in Spain, okay? Everywhere, this is taken care of. So these people, they might not be allowed to stay in the country, but make no look, understand this, they were all fed and taken care of. Because this is a civilized country, this is not some kind of savage land. And I'm going to give this little pinch, sorry, but I have to. And they weren't stuck in bloody hotels. That doesn't happen here. But I'm going to keep on this one about the CIA interference. You know me, folks. You know me. I think by this time you have watched me, and you know that I'm honest. That I don't like conspiracy theories. I don't believe in most conspiracy theories. I go by logic, like I told you, like my dad used to tell me. But there is CIA interference or Israel interference behind this. In fact, I will tell you this. This is Israel's influence, because Israel, they have a network of spies in North Africa. They have. They also have a network of spies in Europe, but they have an active network Mossad spy ring in North Africa, all over it. They were part of the Arab Spring and all of that. They were there. We know this. We all know this. No one likes to talk about it because, you know, it's not politically convenient. And please understand this, okay? Take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, all right? I don't want you to blankly accept what I am saying as an absolute truth. No, I'm just talking about this with the information that I know. And we know that Israel has a network of spies in North Africa, just like they have in Europe. And look, when Israel was behaving like a normal country, which has not been a lot since its genesis, but there was a time when they were trying to fix things and create the two-state solution. I would find it justifiable for Israel to have a network of spies, to keep an eye on their neighbors in order to defend themselves and their people. Okay, I would find it acceptable. But this is an issue that started from 1946, and Israel can I hope they still can solve this by simply have the two-state solution and a bit of better relationship with their neighbors. But I see Mossad fingers in this. I see Mossad fingers in this. So Mossad and CIA, and they are all but the same. Let me just read the comments before we advance to this read. Mitro, Meloni is weird. I expected her to be in lockstep with Trump, but she seems to have more oddly liberal tendencies sometimes. European normal fascists, and I will speak this with a pinch of salt, but I'm talking about those nationalist types. I'm not talking about the lunatics of the AfD, because those are completely lunatics, but I'm talking about people like Meloni, like Salvini, like the Spanish, like the Portuguese fascists, like even like Le Pen. They have this idea of doing what is good for their countries. So to be subservient to the Americans, it's not being good for their countries, then they cut them off. This is how you have to look at these people. These are the type of people that you can have a dialogue with, that you can offer them something in exchange for some kind of peace. So you can, I said this before, I'm going to repeat it again. Meloni is not dumb. Okay, Meloni is not dumb. And when she talks, listen to her, okay? Because she tells you everything that we should know about it. But again, she's also a fascist, and we need to be careful. No doubts about it, okay? Don't let me saying this misunderstand what I'm trying to tell you. I don't trust in any extremist. And she is an extremist. But she's also governing, and she wants to do a good job. In the dark now, there's definitely more to this, like you said. Watch news talking to one man, he swam for 4 or 5 hours, walked up to the news crews and asked for a lift back to the border. Why? Did he get paid some maybe? Yes, in the dark now. Yes, exactly that. What you are telling me is what is the same thing I heard from a Spanish friend. Because usually, you know, these people, then when they want to stay, they arrive very tired. They try to find a job or something like that, or try to stay by any means possible in Ceuta. They come beneath cars, okay? They come in the trunks of the cars. This is not normal. This is someone that arrived at these groups via their spies, sorry, or via whoever they are paying, paid them some and said, look, find me half this number of people to do this. Nothing is going to happen to them. No one's going to shoot at them. And when they get back, they are going to have a nice hefty sum of money waiting for them. Okay. And in the dark now, about this comment that you are saying about Israeli spies, yes, and many times Israeli spies, they are not even Israeli or even Jewish. Also remember that. Most of the times, they are not even Israelis or Jewish. They are normal people that you meet every day, because that is how you make a good spy. A good spy is someone that you can have, you can integrate. And Mitro is saying here 67 have died so far. Yes. To me, that is the worst. Because even if they were paid, no one deserves to die this way. Now, folks, now let's talk about the UK. As I told you, I will be following the news about the UK. And this is about the latest investment that Mr. Burnham has, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, it has announced. Let's watch this video.
The United Kingdom has announced its plans to invest 9.8 billion euros for the next phase of its Dreadnought-class nuclear submarine program. BAE Systems has been tasked with delivering 4 submarines as part of Britain's nuclear deterrent.
The Defence Secretary and I are here today to confirm, after the agreement that was reached around the Defence Investment Plan, £8.4 billion investment in the new Dreadnought class of submarine for our continuous at-sea deterrent.
The investment was set to help the first of 4 submarines, the HMS Dreadnought, complete its sea trials and be ready to enter service with the Royal Navy in the early 2030s, Downing Street said. Burnham's government said the program would support 47,000 jobs and apprenticeships over the next decade.
Now, let me tell you what I think about this, because I have a similar experience here in Portugal. the main focus of this is not to have the nuclear deterrent submarines that the United Kingdom already has. Okay? It's all of the jobs and investment that are going to be needed in order to do this. This is direct public investment in public in public domain things, in submarines, in apprenticeships, and all of this. This is a good idea. Okay, this is a very good idea. Our government has done it here. For example, when they started to invest in drone technology and all of that, and this is before the Ukraine war, okay, much before, so a decade before that, they invested in companies and public companies with private funds also, and it has created a lot of jobs. Okay, for example, in the city of Grândola, they have it's a small city in South Portugal. They have a kind of a factory, a manufacturer, where they are building drones and parts for aerospace industry and all of that. Also in the largest city of Beja, that also has an airport and all of that. So these public things, if they indeed promise jobs, like Mitchell is referring here in the comments, if you are watching this after the stream has ended, I would ask you please open the tab with the chat and watch the panel and watch the chat, because the people that are talking here in the stream, they know what they are talking about. Okay, if it indeed provides jobs, and like Mitro is saying here, sadly the promised jobs didn't stay in Barrow in Furnace, where the ship yard is being done. Yes, Mitro. If that doesn't happen, if it happens, for example, like I told you here, when it becomes the engine to create other things, to provide continuous jobs, if that happens, it's a good investment. But what I'm afraid in the United Kingdom, it's the entire way that public procurement is done. Okay, I hope that this doesn't end up in the back pocket of or of some investor. You get what you understand what I'm trying to tell you. I hope this doesn't get this all of this money isn't forgotten in some kind of a donor's pocket, and it doesn't provide the jobs. But then again, okay, it is what it is. In this case, all we can do is wait and see. But the UK really desperately needs some changes in the way public procurement is done, changes in media law, and it needs it badly. Now, let's continue in the UK. I have another news here from the UK, and this one is about BP, British oil giant. Let's watch.
Oil and gas giant BP said on Friday that it had launched a process to market its North Sea business for a potential sale as it looks to focus on its, quote, highest value opportunities. According to a statement, BP said it believes their North Sea business will be better positioned as part of another company. The announcement came a day after new UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham signalled that he could take a more flexible approach to North Sea oil and gas production amid concerns about the UK's energy security and volatile global energy markets. It also comes amid US President Donald Trump's repeated call on Britain to ramp up oil and gas production in the North Sea. On Thursday, Burnham said he intended to take, quote, a pragmatic approach to developing and using the region's resources. BP's North Sea portfolio off the UK coast comprises 5 production hubs and employs some 1,100 people.
Now, let me just read this. Mithro. He's talking about the shipyards. When I was there, the shipyard employed 40,000 people. It's now 350. Oh, well, 3500. Okay, understand. Yes. If it goes that way, it's not good. But if it goes the way that it has gone here, providing jobs, providing movement to the city, and all of that, my friend, go for it. But let's wait and see. Now, about this one. Well, my friends, this one is as simple as this. First of all, investing in oil and gas in the North Sea is stupid. Fracking, all of that shit, it's stupid. It's kicking a dead horse. All right. And yes, Mithro, it's probably why he had to get rid of Miliband. Yes, in this case, I agree with you, because Miliband, we all know his opinion. Now, what BP is saying is this: we don't have enough money to invest in this, so sell it to the Americans. I'm sorry, but this is what I am seeing here. Let me see if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, it won't be an American company to buy the business in the North Sea from BP. Okay? If I'm wrong, it won't be an American company buying it. But if I'm right, it will be exactly that. And to me, this will be a token of his appreciation that Burnham is giving to Trump. I don't like his mixed messages. And to tell you the truth, this, and again, folks, let me tell you this again. It's better to have Labour than Reform or the Tories in power. Okay? It's better to have a Labour government 100,000 times. But that does not mean it's good. Something being slightly better doesn't mean it's excellent. And to me, in this case, I think this is Burnham giving a gift to American investors. But I can be wrong. But let's wait and see. Viper Scott, my friend. Hello. How are you doing, Alistair? They can FTO if it's a USA company. And again, my friend Alistair, Scotland won't be able to say one single thing about it. They might try to do something, but they are going to do exactly what they want. And look, folks, this is why I have said in other videos that I don't trust Andy Burnham that much. A person that goes back on his word so many times, even if they smile a lot, even if they get emotional when they talk about the taking care of the disabled and all of that shit, okay, I don't trust those people. I really don't trust in those people. But this is my opinion. I'm going to continue to monitor the news from the UK. I'm going to continue to give my opinion about Andy Burnham. And the only thing that I can say is, well, I hope that I am mistaken. Yes, Mitro. The government should be going the way of developing green energy. Green energy is the future, okay? Around here, I'm witnessing this. I am interested in this. I'm witnessing this every day. You know, I still drive around my gasoline car that I love. If you don't know what my car is, I will tell you. I have no issues with it. It's a Fiat Panda. It's a great car. It doesn't consume too much fuel. It's a small car that I can park anywhere. It accelerates like a son of a bitch. Okay. But I am perfectly aware that sooner or later I'm going to have to change to a hybrid or even a full-blown electric car. Okay? But like Viper Scott is saying here, but this is about Burnham. Is only interested in England. He gave no fuck about Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Yes, and that is the problem with the Union of the United Kingdom. They don't give a fuck about the other countries of the Union. Scotland has taken a beating because of this shit in Westminster. But have you guys seen what has happened in Wales? The amount of investment that Wales lost after the United Kingdom left the EU. The EU built bridges, cultural centers. The EU funded a lot of things in Wales. And that is normal, okay? If you come here to Portugal, for example, there are areas of Portugal that are a bit more undeveloped. The region where I live, which is South Portugal, the Alentejo region, which is composed of North and South Alentejo, it's a region that has a lot of issues. Okay, it's not as wealthy as, for example, the region of Lisbon and of the major metropolitan areas and all of that. And what the EU did when it comes to these funds, they took the investment and they focused on areas. In the case of the United Kingdom, they focused on North England, for example. They focused on Wales. They focused on regions that they knew would require support. Right now, I ask you this. What is the central government in Westminster doing? Like Viper Scott is saying here, Northern Scotland, the islands, Cornwall, Wales. What are they getting from the government of the United Kingdom? Look, and this is how people in the United Kingdom have to look at things. Okay, instead of constantly complaining. And I'm not talking about you guys, but I'm talking about some people that I meet. Instead of complaining, why don't you complain to the right people? Why don't you complain to Westminster? Why don't you complain to Farage? Why don't you ask him? Why don't you ask that fucker? Hey, where is all the investment? Where is all the new hospitals? For fuck's sakes, I'm sorry, I'm swearing. You have bloody Boris Johnson on TV. Are you kidding me? The idiot that stood with a pack of ice talking about bloody keepers. Oh, if you in the EU, you will have to have one individual pack of ice for each keeper. You want to know what the answer from the EU was? From the commissioner of farming or fisheries at the time. It was if the UK does that, it's because the UK wants to, because no one does that shit in Europe. And we can look, my friends. We are going to have to. I'm going to have to make a dedicated stream just to the United Kingdom, because every time we start talking about this, it's like we're pulling a string, bendy bananas, exactly, and all of that shit. Look, now, folks, let's continue, because in the end of the stream, I still want to talk about the United States and the economic situation. So let's continue with the other news that I want to show you. All right. Now let's go to the Red Sea for a while.
Yemen's Houthi leader threatened Saudi Arabia with full escalation. The announcement came hours before Riyadh announced a new maritime defense coalition to counter the Iran-backed group's expanding campaign against Red Sea shipping. Abdul Malik al-Houthi accused Saudi Arabia of keeping Yemen in a deliberate cycle of economic and political crisis. Saudi Arabia's response to the Houthi maritime campaign took institutional form on Thursday when Riyadh hosted 43 countries to discuss the creation of a new multinational maritime defense coalition. The coalition is designed to protect freedom of navigation and energy supply routes through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The strait carries roughly 12% of global maritime trade. The Bab el-Mandeb campaign comes at a time when the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf's other critical choke point, remained under blockade after the US-Iran war continued following the collapse of the interim deal between the two sides.
Right. Yes, Metro. I have to take care of my blood pressure. It's right. That is right. And I take medicine every day for it because I need to. Okay. No. Now, this situation in the Red Sea, it can develop to something far more complicated than this. But what if you don't know what is happening is that Saudi Arabia is sending through their pipelines to their ports in the Red Sea. They are sending in their tankers, filling them up, and going up north through the Suez Channel or to the south. Pardon me, to sell their oil, and also oil from other countries, as far as I know. And now we have the Houthis that are threatening to attack those same tankers. And it can happen, and if it happens, well, it will be one hell of a shit show. But Alistair, the problem that you are. No, sorry, Mitchell, I don't know Bob Mortimer. I don't know, sorry, but I will look it up. You have my word on it. Viber Scott, the problem is this. Saudi Arabia, even with the warships in the region, they are going to find the same issue that the United States is finding right now in the Hormuz Strait. You cannot be anywhere. Imagine that the Houthis send in 100 drones. Even if only one of those drones damages a boat, or threatens to damage a boat, that is sufficient to delay that ship from passing for weeks or perhaps months. Yes, this is the issue. And look, this shit is only going to be solved when the United States fucks off the Hormuz Strait. Okay, and it's getting really, really bad for them, because the United States cannot, but I'm going to talk about this in the end of the stream, so let me just say this. The United States cannot afford this war in any way. They cannot afford it militarily, they cannot afford it politically, and they cannot afford it economically. And I'm going to explain that in the end of the stream, okay? But they have no missile defense on them. Yes, look, another one, Alistair. Remember, there are a couple of European vessels in the area, warships. You have a French warship in the area, and you have a couple of Italians too in the area. But that is not sufficient. The only way this situation is going to be solved is when the tankers can pass freely. That is the only way this is going to be solved. And in order to do that, the United States has to fuck off the Hormuz Straits. There has to be an understanding, and there has to be peace in that region, or at least an understanding of peace, meaning they might still be technically at war, but they will keep the the international boat crossings out of it. Because what is happening right now is that all ships that the companies or the countries go through Iran and negotiate the passage, all of those countries they pass. All right, I'm going to talk about the Patriot in South Korea and all of that. But I'm going to talk about it. But the ships that the United States supposedly was protecting, they don't pass. And American bases, they are being pummeled. They are being bombed. And American soldiers are dying. And I'm afraid to say this, but I'm almost absolutely certain that the casualties are much higher than they say. But let's save that to the end of the stream, because that demands a comment that I'm going to make about it, and that will include all of this. Now, folks, let's continue now with another video, and this one is about Temu.
The European Union's antitrust sheriff is investigating whether Chinese platform Temu received potentially distortive foreign subsidies with surprise raids carried out last December. The European Commission said Temu has infringed its duty to actively cooperate on multiple aspects related to the conduct of the inspection at the premises of its subsidiary Wellco in Dublin. Temu rejected the EU's findings, claiming it cooperated fully and complied with all the requests the Commission made during the inspection. The EU accuses Temu of not providing information related to its activities in the EU, its IT tools and the systems it uses. Temu also did not provide specific books and records on its activities in the EU. The EU's accusation only relates to the December 2025 inspections, and Temu now has the right to reply to Brussels' concerns. Temu also categorically denied receiving unfair foreign subsidies. The online marketplace has 130 million users in the EU, nearly a third of the bloc's population, making it one of the biggest online retailers in Europe.
Now, I showed you this video just to show you that it's not just about Google and Amazon and X and all of that, okay? This is also about the Chinese companies. And what they are doing here, sorry folks, pardon me, it's not a booger, it's the allergies off with the heat. Sorry. The heat gives me allergies, and sometimes my nose gets a bit dry, and I have an itch. Okay, this is about having these companies operating in Europe. They can operate in Europe. Okay, Europe is open to business. No one is going to stop a company from installing themselves in Europe and selling to us. If it's beneficial to our citizens, we are not some kind of weirdo Americans that need to have a Made in America postage on everything to buy it. Even if it's assembled across the world, they need to have that little America Made in America seal. Okay. The issue here is to see if they are doing it legally, because if they are receiving subsidies to operate in Europe, that's illegal, because it's also illegal, okay, but it's also illegal for countries inside of the EU to subsidize their own companies, okay? A European country that subsidizes them, any part of their market, they have to publicly show it and say why they are doing it. Any country, in the rules of their sovereign, as a sovereign nations, you know, the sovereignty, you know, that saying that that Farage said UK did not have, and now we are going to recover our sovereignty. You understand? That thing about sovereignty. Countries in their sovereignty, they have the ability to subsidize certain areas of their economy. I'll give you an example. Here in Portugal, wine, cork, and some farming products are subsidized. In the military industry, the development of new military systems, like for example the drones and the explosives and a couple of them more. They are also subsidized by the government. The government gives them money for them to develop new ways of producing things. All right, but the problem here is this, and Viper Scott is saying here, it's a developing country, so needs free postage. So it's biased to Chinese companies and local ones. Yes, the problem here to me is this. Temu can have shops, just like Amazon, shops and warehouses in Europe, receive their products here, pay the taxes on those products, and then make them available for European consumers to buy them. But if they are receiving subsidies from that, to do that, they have two ways of going. And this is why the European Commission has given them time to explain it. They can say this. Yes, for example, imagine this. Yes, the Chinese government gives us 5% of postage, okay, in this product that we sell here in Europe. They say this, and the Commission will tell them this. Okay, you can sell that product here in Europe, but you are going to have to add those 5% to the final price of the product, because if you do not do this, it would not be fair to the other European companies and other foreign companies that are selling in our market. The basic principle here, and this is economics, an area that I love, an area that I understand. This is a basic principle of fairness in economy, and it works. If it's applied correctly with regulation, it works. Look, if you look at the grand scale of things, Chinese companies have seldom been fined in Europe because they go by the rules. Say what you will about them, but they go by the rules. They follow the rules. But you see Amazon, you see Facebook, you see X, all of them being fined. You see Google being fined. You see Telegram being illegalized. You see Rumble being illegalized in Europe. You see a lot of those platforms simply being eliminated. Thank you for your solidarity, Metro. This is really, it really annoys me, okay? And I don't like to do it in public, but I've been talking for so long that my nose is a bit dry now. Now, as I was saying, I just presented to you this video because I don't want you people to think that, look, this guy is just talking about the American companies being fined and being investigated and this and that. No. Any American person that is listening to me, you have to understand this. We have a leveled playfield. When we apply tariffs, like for example in the car market, we apply them as a way to balance the market, to give equality to the market, to allow, for example, local car companies, like for example the German car company, the French car company, the Italian car companies, the Czech Republic car companies, which are the greatest, the Spanish, which is also medium big. Even Portugal has a bit of car making. They have 2 factories or something like that, okay? To give this balance. So, an American company that arrives here, if they play by the rules, no one is bothering them. Do you know how many decades Ford has produced cars in Europe? Even producing models that are specific only to the European market that you will rarely find in the United States, but that you will find a lot, for example, in South America. A lot of the car models that you find here in Europe, you will find in Brazil, you will find in Argentina, you will find in Africa, you will find in Asia. a lot of those car models that are of an American company called Ford that is producing here in Europe. So this is not a matter of persecution or banning. No, this is a matter of follow our rules and everything is all right. If you follow the rules, I'll tell you this: Europe right now, it's the best place to invest in the world. You want to know why? Certainty. You arrive here, you are going to to have a business, and you know exactly what you have to do in order to have a successful business in Europe. It's as simple as this. You arrive at France, you know what the rules of the game are. You arrive here in Portugal, you know what the rules of the business are. Some countries have a bit of more bureaucracy. My country is one of the countries that has too much bureaucracy, for example. Some should have a bit more bureaucracy to avoid certain situations. But wherever you invest in Europe, you know the rules are clear. Even taxing. You can install a company, for example, here in Portugal. A lot of foreign companies do that. Okay, I don't even know how many British companies have installed their headquarters right here in Portugal. Here in Portugal, especially medical labs, insurance companies, banking facilities, all of them, they install themselves buyers and sellers of food products, like those gourmet products like wines and meats, preserved meats, and all of that delicatessen type of things. Okay, you will find, I don't know how many headquarters of British companies right here in Portugal, because they know the market and they took advantage. And when I say took advantage, they were not fooling or misguiding anyone or having different rules. No, they took advantage of the reciprocity treaties that Portugal has with the United Kingdom that do not affect our treaties with the EU. They took advantage of those agreements to install themselves here, even in terms of nationality. I told you this before. In 2022, 42,000 British citizens became Portuguese citizens. This is common, okay? Because there is this reciprocity. It's easier for look, I'll tell you this. Just like it's easier for a Portuguese citizen to obtain their residence or their dual nationality in the United Kingdom, it's also easier for a British citizen to obtain their dual nationality here in Portugal, because we have specific treaties. Let me just... Is Ireland still cheap corporation tax, or has it gone up so time European headquarters in that? No, Viper Scott. Ireland still has the cheaper corporate taxes, business taxes in Europe. Yes. Ireland is still a major hub. In fact, if you don't know this, I think you should know it. A lot of the cheap investment, the business investment that was going to the United Kingdom in the times where the United Kingdom was the gateway to Europe, it's now in Ireland. I would say, look, I don't know the exact figures, but just out of my memory, I would say half of the business is in Ireland and the rest is divided in Europe, with a prevalence in the Netherlands, France, and Germany. And then you have specific things in Portugal, in Spain, and Italy. You even have American film companies investing right here in Portugal. Let me just read, before going to the next piece, let me just read this one of Mitro. It's interesting. Mitro. There's a lot of European companies building cars in the Americas. Americans are paying almost double EU prices, and the quality control is terrible. EGI, BMW, and Audi are seen as very unreliable in the US. This is an interesting one. And this one I know. You want to know what's the main difference? Because those European companies, if they are not producing viable cars for their market, then they should not be producing there. And also you have to, and you have just to, I will answer Viper Scott. Let me just answer this one to Mito. You have to look at the way that driving and quality control of cars on the road is in the United States, and it's here. If you are interested in this, go and watch a couple of videos to see Americans comparing our inspections, our yearly inspections to cars here in Europe with theirs. For example, my car, that is an older model now, every year it has to go to an inspection in a center. They see a lot of things. They see the brakes, they see the wheels, they see everything in the car to see if it's up to par to be on the road. In the United States, you go to a mechanic, you pay him, and your car is ready to go, even if it's not safe. And you can take your license, and you can get a license as young as 16. You have cars in the you have cars in the United States that should not be on the road. And if you are talking about a machine, look, I was never wealthy enough to have myself a BMW or an Audi. But those are cars, a BMW, a Mercedes, an Audi, those are cars that demand a lot of attention. One of my friends, he has had his BMW, okay? He has had his BMW for years and he loves it, but he says the BMW costs him as much as having a mistress. Okay, so it's you can have a good car, but then you have to pay a lot for it. If you are living, for example, in a system like in Europe, where you are forced to keep your car up to par, it's relatively easy. No, I know a couple of things about cars, of mechanics and all of that, but I don't mess around with it. When it's time to take the car to the yearly inspection, I take it to a garage. It's the same place where I bought my car, that are reliable to me. Okay, I drop the car and I tell them, look, it needs to go to do the yearly inspection. Do whatever you need and put it up to par. And they go through my car. They repair whatever needs to be repaired. They take it to the inspection, and then I have my car back perfectly well to be on the road for another year. And yes, Billy Kershaw, they are very expensive to maintain. Yes. These cars, Mithril. No, it's not a question of being stupid, my friend, okay? If you can afford a good BMW or an Audi, look, I don't have one, okay? But but I have driven one. And yes, and you were a driving instructor, okay? Even more, you understand the prices. Okay? But they are great cars to drive. But I think that daily you just need a reliable and comfortable car. Okay, not a flashy car. I'm not impressing anyone with my Fiat, so now, folks, let's continue with the stream. Now let's talk about Cuba and the tourism industry. Okay, let's watch this video.
Cuba's tourism industry has ground to near total paralysis, with Prime Minister Manuel Marrero confirming that 73% of hotels are now closed and 25,000 workers left vulnerable. The collapse was triggered by severe fuel shortages and tightened UN sanctions against military-run firms, causing international visitor numbers to drop 58% in the first half of 2026 to 360,000. As a result, major European operators, including Spanish giant Melia, have ceased operations, ending more than 3 decades of international hotel management on the island. In total, 7 international hotel chains have now ceased operations on the island. This accounts for 46% of the rooms.
Now, folks, I showed you this video on purpose because I think people have to understand how far and wide the actions of the United States have damaged international trade, foreign countries, and people in general, how much suffering they are causing. Let's first talk about Cuba. Cuba has a lot of doctors and nurses that are working right here in Portugal and across the border in Spain. They are very competent. If you don't know this, Cuba is a heavyweight in medical cares. They have extremely competent doctors and nurses and medical technology. They are good at what they do. They also provide free healthcare to their entire population, just like free education. Now, let's not beat around the bush. Cuba is also a dictatorship. Okay, it's an authoritarian regime. You have an elite in the top that is ruling over the ones that are below them. But when Cuba was able to have this tourism, people were able to earn more money and progress. And it was extremely safe to go to Cuba as a tourist. I know a lot of people that used to go there, and they told me that it was like going back to Portugal in the early 60s. Okay, so the type of place where it's relatively safe unless you are very careful. Anything will, it's the only way that someone would steal something from you or whatever. You could have good food and good accommodations at a very reasonable price. Even the prices that they have for just for tourists and not for citizens, for services and all of that, it was perfectly accessible. The streets were clean, the people were nice. Usually everyone tells me that the Cuban people are very nice people, hardworking. So it was a good place to spend your vacation. And a lot of Portuguese people spent their vacations in Cuba. A lot of Canadians also used to go to Cuba. And then in comes the dumb American again. And now people are dying in Cuba. And now with the tourist industry, they have been working with generators and a lot of things that make it having your hotel in Cuba extremely expensive. Because if you are paying, look, if you are paying to a national company to provide you with electricity and clean water, you are paying just a service. But when you yourself, when your hotel has to provide for energy, has to have fuel, has to have clean water, and all of that, well, it's completely unsustainable. And what about the people in the street? You know, the people that sell you fresh fruit, or the people that take you on carriage rides, or the taxis that are old cars from the 50s and all of that, or the guy that is fishing in the sea and then that sells the fresh fish you can eat at a local restaurant and all of that. What about the people that are dying in the hospitals because they don't have power? because they cannot import the medicine that they need. Look, I know Rubio has this fantasy about being the first governor of Cuba. But this is not fair. Even if the Cuban government, even if they are bastards, this is not fair. This is not fair. No country should go through this. I understand people have their reservations. I know some people will be divided in what they would consider about this. But in my opinion, this is basically the United States committing an act of international terrorism. Okay, this is terrorism. Okay, my friends, I'm sorry, this is terrorism, and I cannot support this. Even with all of that the Cuban government is. But I decided to put this news also here in the stream because it's important, and it will also be important to the later part of the stream when I will be talking about the US economy. Now I have one about Apple. I don't know if you use Apple products. Me, sincerely, I never liked them. I never liked Apple computers, Apple watches, or Apple anything. Even after they were forced by the EU to have national, to have the replacement of the pieces and all, to give access to local producers to repair their systems and all of that. Even after that, I didn't. It's just not my thing. But this is my position. If you use Apple products, tell me in the comments. Now, let's watch the video.
Apple has beaten market expectations in its latest quarterly results, generating almost $110 billion in revenue, up 60% year-on-year. The record June quarter was driven by strong demand, with iPhone sales rising almost 22% to over $54 billion and Mac revenue jumping nearly 29%. However, the stellar performance was overshadowed by a weaker outlook. Apple warned that rising memory chip costs and AI-driven supply constraints will slow current quarter growth to between 9% and 11%, causing shares to fall by up to 8% in after-hours trading. The company will also no longer benefit from the tariff refunds that boosted its latest profit margin. The financial report marks the final earnings call for Chief Executive Tim Cook, who is stepping down after 15 years. Hardware engineering chief John Ternus will take over as chief executive on September the 1st.
Yes, thank you, Alistair, for that. USB-C and right to repair. Yes, that is exactly what I was trying to say. And Mithril, you want to know something? I agree with you. Cuba would become a state before Puerto Rico or Washington, D.C. It would favor the Republicans. Exactly. The winning over the communists. Indie Duck Mel 5. I got everything. Apple, go ahead and tell me off. Look, of course I'm not going to tell you off. I'm just saying I never liked their computers, or the way things were designed. It was just not for me. Okay, but look, one of my older brother, before he got into Linux a couple of years ago, he liked Apple. But the only thing Apple that I ever had, I think it was some kind of mini computer or some shit like that. But it was when I was really, really, really young, you know, when I didn't had this beard. Now, folks, about these Android don't have the medical app I rely on. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. If you need it, even more reasons for you to use it. Okay, now let me just say this. I put in this news about Apple on purpose to tell you this. These are the only people, so to speak, in the United States that are benefiting from all of this mess in the United States. These companies like Amazon, like Facebook, like X, they are earning millions, I would say billions, with this entire situation. Remember this: they sold products to the Americans, including the added price of the tariffs. Remember this: they increased the price of their products, and the Americans paid them. And now they are receiving those tariffs from the government. So they are being paid twice. And I am absolutely sure that that Mr. Trump is also receiving some money from it. Hello, Camry. Welcome, my friend. Okay. I'm still going to stream for a while because I have to talk about the American economy in the end of the stream. And I still have 3 more videos for us to watch. Now, all of these large companies, they are the only ones that are benefiting from this. All of the small farms, family farms, last year, when I stopped watching the count, already 360 family-owned farms had been sold. They are all now being bought up by large agriculture companies. Mr. Vance, for example, he owns a share of one of those companies. Customer will not get that money. Exactly, Scott. No, they won't. But the company, they will get it. And more than that, they are also not going to pay taxes, which is the most wonderful part. This is why my late dad used to tell me, follow the money trail. You follow the money trail and you know exactly where the money is and who is benefiting from it. Now, folks, now let's just talk about one good news. If you don't know the situation of Cyprus, it's as simple as this. More than half of the population is Greek Orthodox, and the other part is Turkish and Muslim. And because of different political reasons, there was a war, and the country was divided, the island. Now, it seems that the EU is trying to broker a peace talk between both parties to perhaps follow the path to reunification. Okay, let's watch this video.
The European Union said it is ready to play a substantive role in an effort to resume talks on the Cyprus issue. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides welcomed Raffaele Fitto in Nicosia, marking the first visit by the Executive Vice President of the European Commission since his appointment as Special Representative for Cyprus. According to the Cypriot government, they discussed the next steps as well as the European officials' upcoming meetings with the parties involved. Following the meeting, Raffaele Fitto explained how he views his new mission.
The European Union wants to give a very clear message. We want to work, to participate with a very important role in the process. We want to follow clearly the UN process, because it's very important for us to give our very important and positive contribution this way.
The Cypriot government says it seeks to leverage EU-Turkey relations to advance the process. Foreign Minister Konstantinos Kombos described the meeting as useful and constructive. He noted that Nicosia is considering ideas and proposals for the next steps, but emphasized that Turkey's final stance remains decisive.
Υπάρχει η δυνατότητα να έχουμε πρόοδο. Εμείς εργαζόμαστε για να δημιουργηθούν οι συνθήκες για να έχουμε αυτή την πρόοδο. Σε πάρα πολύ μεγάλο βαθμό όμως η απάντηση σε όλα τούτα τα ερωτήματα βρίσκεται στην Αγκύρα.
Fito's visit, which also included a scheduled meeting with Turkish Cypriot leader Tufan Erdogan, took place a few days after Antonio Guterres' meeting in Cyprus. The UN Secretary General said he hopes to convene fresh talks between the two sides, provided that progress is made with confidence-building measures and the methodology and substance of any talks that may take place.
Right. First of all, folks, very good news. All right. It's about time that this entire situation ends. It's about time that Cyprus is a unified island again. It was a stupid war, but we all know why it happened. It happened because of the continuous war that we still have between Greece and Turkey. And it's also a good excuse to pull in Turkey furthermore into the European Union. I know a lot of people don't like that, and I understand them. I would understand a Greek person that doesn't like that. I would fully understand them. They have millions of reasons to do so. But on the other hand, we have to look into the broader perspective. There is that old saying that keep your friends nearby and keep your enemies even closer to you. A Turkey that is economically dependent of the rest of Europe, that is integrated into our economic system, is a Turkey that is better than having this actor on the outside that can at any moment damage you. If they can reach, if they can reach an agreement on this, I think it will be historic, and it will open the path to solve other issues with Turkey. And Turkey has a lot of issues. Okay, Turkey has Erdogan. Let's not forget that. But it's not just Erdogan. It's the entire establishment that is behind it. But Turkey also has a lot of people that want to be considered Europeans, that want to act and live as Europeans, that don't want to act and live as Middle Easterns. Okay? And Turkey also has a large army, a lot of influence. It also has a lot of political leverage. It has a lot of influence in Azerbaijan, in the Caucasus, in the northern Middle East. It can act as a linchpin to keep Israel in their place. Let's not forget that. This is important. We need to consider all of this. So in my view, this is extremely important. And this is something that we need to discuss in the future. And let me tell you this. I have been with Turkish people, and most of them, they are decent people. Most of them. Okay, you have the lunatics. Every country has their lunatics. But I even met Turkish women, and they didn't wear any scarves or any shit like that, and they did not even consider wearing one. Sorry. And to me, the thing about wearing the scarf, well, that is up to them. It's their opinion, it's their life. It's not. I'm not the person that should tell them how they should live. Okay, but again, great news, at least in my opinion, and another sign that the European Union is finally stepping out of its comfort zone and trying to have an impact in the world. Okay, now let's watch another video, and this one is about false claims and false fake news. Let's watch this.
Welcome to theCUBE, Euronews' fact-checking show. As Spain battles devastating wildfires, another challenge has emerged online, prompting Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez to warn people against sharing misinformation. One widely shared image claims to show the front page of Spanish newspaper El País, reporting that the government cut more than half of its funding for wildfire prevention. But comparing it with the newspaper's genuine front page shows the image has been fabricated. Its cover on the 24th of July shows an interview with former Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, and there is no evidence El País published the claim. Another theory shared across platforms claims the fires have been deliberately started to clear land for solar farms. Several posts spreading online point to an official document authorizing a solar farm in the same area as one of the deadly wildfires in Los Gallardos. This document from Spain's official state gazette is real, but the plant itself is not located in Los Gallardos. Instead, it was planned for the municipalities of Lucainena de las Torres and Sorbas, around 35 kilometers from Los Gallardos. So far, Spain is examining a fallen electrical cable as the likely cause of the fire, with no evidence linking the blaze to plans for a solar farm. These theories aren't new. Similar claims have resurfaced after previous wildfire seasons, with posts alleging that blazes were deliberately caused to clear land for renewable energy or construction projects. But Spain's forestry law prohibits changing the use of burned forest land for 30 years, meaning that fire-stricken land cannot be turned into development projects, with some specific exceptions if in the public interest.
All right, folks. And again, we go back to the beginning of the stream when I talked about the CIA's suspected influence over the invasion by migrants of Ceuta. Okay, if you were not here during that part of the stream, please go back and listen. Okay, so that I'm sorry, I'm not going to be repeating it all over again now. Sorry, but I want to continue to talk about this. And this is as simple as this. What is happening right now in Spain and France with these stupid claims, that shit is also seeded here whenever there is a fire. And to be absolutely clear, fires here, when they are on purpose, usually they are done by people with mental issues, with mental problems, because there is no profit in it. Spain has that 30 years law. Portugal has the same type of law. If, for example, you try to burn a piece of forest because you want to build something in there, you won't be able to build anything there. The only thing you'll be able to do is to plant that forest all over again. If you try to clear forest land for farming purposes, you won't be able to do it too. If you want to clear it to build a solar farm, my friends, you won't be able to use that land too. Sorry. It's the allergies, folks. I'm very sorry. The heat. It's getting a bit warmer here in the room, and I'm feeling it. Sorry. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this entire slop, no one believes in it. Okay, let me be clear about this. Only very stupid people. This is done to feed trolls and idiots, for example, in the United States or somewhere else. Reason why I keep saying this: American and Russian influence. And in my view, they are working all together. Thank you, Viper Scott. Sorry, no boogers, just allergies. Okay, but folks, this is just yet another example of like the AI who is talking about yes, AI slop. Yes, Comrie. Exactly. It's just AI slop, folks. It's just AI slop. It's just AI slop. Because you cannot use the land to do anything. You want to know what happens, for example, if you burn down an historic building here to build something on it? You don't build anything on it. You have to pay to rebuild it. All right, so there is no economic profit in it. Then there is no intention. This is why I tell you here, and I'm talking about Portugal, and I could be talking about Spain because the situation in the rural areas is very similar. Okay, it's almost the same. If you compare the countries, if you put down a line between North Spain and North Portugal and South Spain and South Portugal, the way of life of people is very similar. There are differences, of course, but it's very similar. But it's mostly accidents, cable power line that collapses. Reason why we are burying them. That is one of the reasons to avoid these situations. A lightning strike. For example, someone leaving a piece of glass in the middle of the bush instead of putting it in the trash, and the heat of in the glass and all of that causing a fire. Someone smoking in the woods and dropping a cigarette without putting it out. Sometimes there are fires in the highways because we still have dumb idiots that are smoking and then toss the blunt outside of the window. Reason why if you come here in Portugal you see a lot of highways now, they have kind of a separator outside of the area of the road to prevent these situations. Okay, so these are things that are normal, and with climate change these things become even more common. Okay, but oh, is the EU going to do stuff? Yes, it's already doing it. It's already doing it, Alistair. They are already preparing the legislation to end it. It's simply going to be, look, I'm just going to make this small explanation about it because it's a long topic. But already here in Europe, deep fakes, misinformation, and fake news, distorting news, is completely forbidden. All right, what they are going to do right now is they are going to create legislation specific just for that, for AI, that AI slop and deep fakes and all of that, and they are going to differentiate between, for example, those Lego videos, for example, imagine, or those AI videos of Trump and all of the others. They are going to distinguish between satire, meaning to allow people that make those types of contents to continue to do it because it's just satire. It doesn't have a political objective, so to speak. In some cases that might have, but you understand what I'm trying to say. But they are going to differentiate between that and sayings like that video that I don't know if I'm not going to give that guy his advertisement. But you know, there is that guy that made an AI video about London, and he showed London as some kind of a hellscape, invaded by Muslims, everything burning and dead and trash in the streets and all. You folks, do you see that video? I'm not going to tell his name or give him any kind of credits in the algorithm, but it's precisely to avoid that, because since then I also saw a couple of videos like that here. There was this video, AI, of allegedly Indian tourists from the UK that was shooting at the statue of one of our kings here in Portugal, and it was AI. And that video was on social media. So this is a dual approach. They are going to legislate it Meaning, say, you can make a video on satire about this and that, but you have specifically to say it, okay? But if you do this, then it's a crime, and both you and the platform where it is being published is going to be punished. And I can tell you right now that platforms like YouTube, like X, and a couple of more, they are already preparing themselves to comply with these rules. You want to know why? Because or else the EU is going to find them. Just like we recently find Google. Because the Americans, they no longer have enough leverage to do anything in Europe. And this is another question that I'm going to talk about in the end. Speaking of AI, I'm now going to show you a video about what is Europe doing about the AI entire race. Okay, let's watch.
Brussels is racing to build infrastructure to train advanced AI models and catch up with global tech competitors. The European Commission has launched a call for tenders to publicly finance up to 7 AI gigafactories in Europe. These large-scale computing facilities, equipped with highly specialized chips, are designed to train the next generation of AI technologies, notably the most advanced large language models. The move forms part of a broader tech sovereignty push to cut the EU's dependence on foreign suppliers of cloud services and chips. Europe wants to become the first AI continent, the European Commission said Thursday.
All of this to also serve our tech sovereignty agenda, because we want advanced AI to be developed right here at home in Europe and by European companies and European researchers in line with Europe's values and fundamental rights.
Massive data center projects are already well underway in the US and China. In response, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a plan to build AI gigafactories in Europe at the AI Action Summit in Paris last year. 10 EU countries have expressed interest in hosting a gigafactory, yet critics warn that while gigafactories aim to build sovereign European infrastructure, the EU remains heavily reliant on foreign suppliers for specialized AI chips.
All right. Again, do you remember a year ago, more than a year ago now, when we were talking about the rearming of Europe, and a lot of people were saying, well, that's not possible. How are they going to do it in 1 year, and this and that? Or when people were talking about the EU economy detaching itself from the American economy, and the euro becoming a fiat currency in the world stage, and being even more valuable than the dollar. Sorry, you remember when we talked about that? Do you see how we are now? Germany is one of the world's leading manufacturer in ammunitions. We are building factories to build missiles, to build tanks. Germany has propped up its building of tanks. You have Sweden, you have Finland, you have all of that. This is going to happen, and this is needed. And Mithril, I understand your concerns, okay? I also have them. But let's see if they are going to use innovative technologies just like China is using. And my idea is that they are going to go that route. Because if they are going, look, let me tell you this. Here in Europe, in the EU, they want to build things to last. They don't want just to build an AI center that is going to work now, but that in a year or two, it's not going to work. They want to build something that will last. And to build something that will last, they will have to build it in a way that it's economically viable. Meaning they will have to build it in a way that they are not, as you're saying this, consuming the water to put out wildfires. When AI companies have drained the rivers and lakes dry, they are going to have to find solutions. And if they are going to start to doing it from the principle, and if it's going to be our taxpayers' money that is going to finance it, you bet your ass that they are going to do it right. Because there is no tolerance. Okay, there is no tolerance for these types of things, and we have to be a bit more pragmatic. And look, we are going to need it. And I don't trust Mithril. Have no doubts about this. I don't trust AI either. And come read. You are saying and you are saying it very right, that England is continuing to steal your water and your energy in Wales and in Scotland. Kimro, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. At least in Portuguese I would pronounce it Kimro. But if I'm not right, tell me in the comments. But we need this. If we don't, because we are either clients of the Chinese and the Americans and dependent on them, or we are self-reliant. And as we have seen in the last 2 years, we cannot depend on the Americans for bloody shit. We cannot depend on them. And if we are detaching our economies out of them on everything, then, my friends, this is something that we need to do too. Okay? Comrie. My username is how to say Kimro. Okay. Comrie. Okay. Because you see that C in Portuguese, I would pronounce it K. Okay. And the Y, it would be Y. Kimro. Okay. Comrie. Thank you. Look, I'm always ready to learn, okay? And I like to learn. So, Comrie. All right. Now, folks, before we go to the last piece of the stream, I'm going to show you another video. And it's a video where my country, unfortunately, is in the top 10. Okay? It's about what are the deadliest countries for driving in Europe. Yes. Let's watch this one.
What are the deadliest countries for driving in Europe? Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania are Europe's top deadliest countries for driving, according to a study by Vignette Switzerland, an online sales company for the Swiss e-Vignette. Serbia registers 74 road deaths per million people, putting the country a staggering 72% above the EU average. It is the second consecutive year the country topped the list. Bulgaria follows next in second place with 71 road deaths per million people, and Romania ranks third with 68 road deaths per million people. In addition, popular tourism hubs, including Portugal, Greece, Italy, and France, rank among the top 10 deadliest European countries for driving, according to the study. Road safety progress has also stalled in some common holiday destinations, such as Portugal, where road deaths have fallen by just 1% since 2015. France has also shown a slow rate of improvement, reducing fatalities by 6% over the same period. On the other hand, Nordic countries still dominate the safety rankings, with Norway now tied with Sweden, recording just 19 deaths per million inhabitants, making them nearly 4 times safer than Serbia. Experts suggest that drivers check local rules, plan their routes carefully, and stay alert on unfamiliar roads to avoid incidents.
Right. Road safety, folks. It's also a very important topic. And just to just for a laugh, I will tell you this. I had a French girlfriend when I was young, and she used to say that the Portuguese drive like Germans imitating Italians. Okay, and it's the truth. Okay, I think the main issues here in Portugal, and I drive every day to work in and out, so I know it. I think the main issues here in my country it's speeding. Okay, it's speeding, and sometimes people not paying attention to where they are speeding, because it's a big difference from speeding in an empty road. That, for example, here in South Portugal we have a lot of empty roads in South Portugal, so sometimes you can go for hours without seeing any kind of road traffic, and inside of the cities and the urban areas. Uh, it has it has gotten better over the time. Okay, for example, people driving under the influence of alcohol has diminished. Fatal accidents have diminished, but unfortunately, it still happens. Okay, look, it's my father died in a road accident. Okay, so I know the feeling. This is why whenever I'm driving, I'm constantly thinking about that. I'm not going to say the circumstances, I will just say it was not his fault, okay? And he was definitely not driving under the influence. That is all I'm going to say. But I can understand the pain. I can understand the pain of someone dealing with that. So I relate. And Mithril, thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for sharing, my friend. And look, you have heard me talk, and you know that I accept people as they are, right? Absolutely. And about that thing about the pronouns, okay? If you want me to treat you in whatever pronouns you want, tell me, and I will. All right? And anyone that is listening to the stream, and it's perhaps just in the background listening in, this is a safe place. Okay? I don't judge people on their gender. I don't judge people in their political ideas unless there are extremists that are only willing to listen to their own ideas. I don't judge people on ethnicity, on anything of that. And I have a mod right here. It's Viper Scott. He's a person in which I trust to have the same type of judgment that I have. The only rules in this chat is that you have to be civil, and you cannot come in here and talk shit to people and be offensive and support lunatics like Mr. Trump and all of that crap, or come here with misinformation and fake news. I don't support that shit. You are free to say, okay? You are free to say anything to me. You are free to say, Jerome, I don't agree with you. I will accept it. Because it's not in my nature to attack someone just because the person doesn't have the same opinion as me. So, Mitro, thank you. Yes, that's understandable. Okay, sometimes it's confusing for children. Yes, sometimes it's very confusing for children. Okay, but look, we have to do what, for example, my parents did with me. They explained to me pretty young what a gay person was. And you want to know what they told me? Even my grandfather, that was born in a completely different world. He was born in 1917. Okay. And he always used to tell me this: they like what they like, okay? They like what they like. It's none of your business. as long as they respect you, you respect them. And this is what my parents also told me. My parents told me to respect everyone and to demand people to respect me. All. That was all. And those are, to me, in my idea for society is this. These are the basic principles of society. To respect people and to not meddle into the people's business. Look, I cannot even understand, for example, and you all know that we have more trans people that come here to the chat and talk with us. You know that. I don't talk about it because I don't think it's necessary to inquire on a person what is their story or what is their sexual orientation or whatever, because I think it's stupid to talk about this unless that person asks for my help or wants to discuss or wants to know my opinion. I cannot understand how hard it must be to be in your shoes. Okay. Yes. Social nastiness from one of my siblings, their partner. And they made my parents suffer, which was unforgivable for me. Exactly. Because then, when they are nasty to you, the people that you love suffer. No. Well, folks, I would love to talk about this, and perhaps if you want to, I will make a stream and I will talk about transgender people. I will try to talk about gay people. I will talk about all of that if you want me to do so. If you want to, tell me. I'll do a stream about it. Now, folks, there is a word for you in the dark mail. You are a lovely human being. Okay? Now, let's talk about the United States. The first thing I'm going to tell you is take absolutely everything that I'm saying with a pinch of salt. Okay? Remember that these are just my own ideas. These are only my position, and these are only my deductions and conclusions about the situation that I'm seeing. Since about 2 years ago, I have been seeing European money being diverted from the United States into Europe itself, into other markets in which Europe has been investing, like Mercosur, like China, like India. Okay? I have been seeing in Canada and Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. Okay? A small mountain of salt. Exactly, Martin. Exactly. Exactly, Matthew. Now, let's go back for a minute to the situation that we had previous. After World War II, yes, I'm going that further back. After World War II, Europe was in shambles. It was in ruins. And you had two blocks fighting over the territory and fighting over land and political influence. Now, you had the Soviets that installed their own predatory system of rule in the Eastern Bloc, and you had the Americans that installed, yes, their own predatory system of rule in the West. And they did this. They channeled all of their industrial capability into building to Europe, into sending everything since from food But attention, they didn't give it. Okay, they supplied the market and received money in business in exchange for it. Okay, they built everything from household appliances to cars to fuel to oil products to absolutely everything. And the European countries, they bought those products and they became clients of the Americans. Over the years, and this started in France, countries began to have their own economic independence. They began to be competitors of the American companies. Some American companies, like the one that I mentioned, Ford, installed itself in Europe. But basically, after the 70s, with the fall, with the end of Detroit and all of that, the Americans lost the car war, let's call it like this, in Europe. They were now competing with Japanese. The Americans did the same thing in Japan. Yes, America wasn't being bombed. It was enabled to become the weapons hegemony of the world. Yes, that's exactly it. They did the same thing with Japan, and then we saw Japan doing it. Okay, doing it to Japan, to Korea, to all of the so-called allies, and to a lot of the third world. We all know about what the Americans did in terms of installing docile governments, even if they were authoritarian regimes in South America. The Americans also sustained the authoritarian regimes in the Iberian Peninsula, Salazar in Portugal, Franco in Spain, an example. They, to a degree, they also supply them, so to speak, but always, this is very important. I need you to retain this little detail in your mind. Always for a profit. It was never free. The Soviet Union, they did the same thing in their side of the woods. Okay? But now I'm going to talk about the United States. They became the weapon suppliers of Europe. They installed bases all over Europe, and in the beginning, these bases were not integrated in some kind of NATO to defend against the Russian offensive. These were advanced bases of the American military that was in a world conflict to become the hegemon with the Soviet Union and other actors that later on rose. But then the Soviet Union fell. And a lot of that entire focus shifted to other places in the world. It shifted to China. It shifted to the emerging world. Okay? And I will talk about your comments in the summary. Okay? I will talk about them. But let me just continue with what is recording right here. The Americans over this time, they continued to try to undermine European sovereignty. They continued to undermine France, especially, and Germany. I'm not even sure they wanted a German reunification. I'm not sure they wanted the European Union. My opinion, they didn't want it, but they could do nothing about it. And their latest attempt in destabilizing Europe was with Brexit, which now, after more than a decade, I will tell you this. I am convinced that the force that is behind all of this shit is the United States and not Russia. To me, Russia is their associate actor, because Russia and Mr. Putin has this infantile idea of recreating the mighty Soviet Union. And now that is all crumbling. Because Putin now knows that even if he wins this war in one way or another in Ukraine, he won't be able, he will not have the time. Remember, he's an old man. He won't have the time, he won't have the manpower, and he won't have the resources to fight a war in Europe. Mitro, my friend, you are welcome here, okay? Please, come back to these streams anytime you want. And if you want to talk with me or with anyone in the chat, please do so, okay? No worries. No worries. We have enough, all of us have enough worries in our daily lives. Now, we are seeing this entire situation crumble. And to me, Trump is just the representation of that force that is in the United States. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about the business community. I'm talking about the people with power in the army. I'm talking about all of that. All of the actions that Trump has been taken, they have luckily backfired on him. But imagine this. Imagine he had been successful in Venezuela or in this attempt in Iran right now. He would have gained a lot of momentum. Imagine that he was able to put Le Pen and to put Orban in power in Europe and destabilize the European Union. Imagine if he was able to do what he wanted to do in Ukraine, which was basically to give half of Ukraine to Russia. He would have been successful. Luckily for us, he wasn't. And now, my friends, the cat is out of the bag, so to speak. We know it. The Americans know it. The Russians know it. And the Chinese know it. And now, the final plot unfolds. And that is the American economy. The American army is based on their capability of sourcing know-how, intelligence, work, parts, and all of that from their allies. Thank you, Comrie. Okay? It's as simple as this. In order to have a large army, the Americans need to have their bases. They need to have their military influence in Europe, which is simultaneously their market and the way they can sell their weapons. And they need to have this entire set of alliances in order to function. And right now, the only alliance they have is NATO. And the orange guy is making threats, trying to boost his power. And it's not going to work. Because what happened with things like the SAFE Act in Europe is this. Instead of the money that went into the American military complex, instead of the money instead of going to that military complex, that money is coming into Europe. And Europeans are building weapons here. They are rearming here. They are slowly but surely pushing the Americans out of influence in NATO. They are basically turning the Americans into just another partner of NATO, but they are replacing them. And the Americans don't have enough money or power to do absolutely anything about it. Okay? And the UK is in a very dangerous situation right now. Because the UK now has to choose. And this is why in the beginning of the video I talked about Andy Burnham, and I didn't trust much in him. Because he's giving gifts to the Americans. Exactly, Camry. When they turned off the F-16s. Exactly. Yes. Yes, Camry. Portugal cancelled its orders. 6 billion that are not going to the American military complex. I think we are going to buy some jets. Some jets from, I think, we are going to buy Griffins, I think. I think it's Griffins. Now, this is why I keep telling no Viper Scott. Portugal cancelled the purchase of the F-35. Okay, we cancel it. It was 6 billion euros. I still remember it. Right now we already have a contract to buy. I don't want to be mistaken, but I think it's Griffins and the Swedish ones. I don't recall the name. Sorry, something like that. Okay, but let me continue. We now have this situation in which you have an American company, American military, that is wasting away their resources in stupid wars, trying to prop up the value of the dollar, to pay off a debt the United States cannot pay. I think it's already in $34 trillion. And they are reaching a tipping point. And this is my prediction. They are going to reach that tipping point. And I don't believe in sudden falls. But neither of any one of us that's watched it happen, none of us was expecting to watch the Berlin Wall falling down. No, I still remember my dad. I was a kid, but I still remember my dad saying this. I never thought I would see this in my lifetime. Okay, so the fall might be quite swift, but I understand this. Whatever is going to happen, it's already in motion. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that these events, they are going to have a conclusion. And the conclusion will be a Europe detached from the ever, unless there is some great event, ever having a USA having that type of influence. You are going to have a weaker USA. I'm sure they are going to retreat from most of their Middle Eastern bases. And the gambling of Israel and the United States, because they are acting as one, their gambling, it's going to backfire on them. I wanted to talk about this because this is very important, because we all need to understand this. Things are going to change. They already changed, and there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. You want to know what Europe is doing, the EU is doing. And I sincerely hope that Andy Burnham, at least in that aspect, is smart enough to understand this. Europe is completely detaching their economy from the United States because they know the United States economy is shit and it's going to burst and it's going to crash. This does not mean that the large American companies are still not going to be there and they are still going to, for example, open headquarters in Europe or even in China or in Japan or whatever, or even in Canada. This does not mean that. But the type of life the American common citizen has had in the past is gone. They are going to lose a lot of that way of life. Starting with a lot of European companies and other companies that are simply not going to sell into the American market. One of you, I don't recall which, I think it was Metro, was talking about the European cars in the United States. We are going to reach a point in which the American market won't be able to afford those cars. They are not going to be able to afford European food staples. And when I'm talking about European, I'm not just talking about the EU. I'm talking about the UK. And the UK is in a very dangerous situation because of this simple fact. Whilst in Europe we have our influence in the American bond market isolated, meaning Europe holds, especially Luxembourg, I think, holds a lot of American debt, and we are using that as a leverage to keep the Americans in their place, but we have it isolated from our own economy. Economically, if those bonds are worthless from here to tomorrow, our market, like any market all over the world, will take a hit. But it won't take a deadly hit. My problem, my fear with United Kingdom is this. The United Kingdom does not have their market isolated from the American bond market. And the UK is the country in the world with Japan that holds the biggest amount of American debt. So if tomorrow the American market suddenly crashes, it's going to take the UK is going to take a heavy blowing from it. This would mean that, for example, imagine this. I don't know how many billions the British government or British companies, the British market has of American debt. But imagine that you have, this is an example, it's not the accurate figure, okay? Has 10 million American debt. And tomorrow, that 10 billion American debt is worth, I don't know, half a dozen pounds. Your state, your country, your market is going to lose 10 billion. Do you understand how catastrophic that would be? It would be an absolute apocalypse. You would have companies sinking down in minutes. Yes, Viper Scott, the issue here is this. Japan is doing the same thing the EU did to American bonds. And I'm going to tell you this story because I think it's interesting, and this is a story that you can fact check. You want to know who was the first country? You want to know who was the first country to remove their gold reserves from the United States? back in 2022. Portugal. I was already listening to this story back in 2022 about American bonds not being safe and we have to take care of our business. And since we are a smaller country that cannot spend this so much money, but look, make no mistakes, Portugal is a small country, but we are not wealthy. We have some money. We have some power, so to speak. We took all of that gold and put half of it right here in Portugal, and the other half we divided between the UK and other places, other countries in Europe. We have to prepare ourselves to this. When their economy comes down, the EU is not going to hold their hand. Okay? When the American companies, when the American bond market starts to crash, the EU is not going to hold their hand. Neither will China. And Billy Kershaw, he was saying here, China has large holdings too. Yes, they have. But Billy, China can print their own money. Okay? They can just... Wouldn't you buy Chinese debt? If China, if a country like China, with all of those assets, comes to you and says, look, here you go, buy me this. We lost 10 billion in the American bond market. We need to make 10 billion in the market right now. Buy us this 10 billion in bonds. Or the EU. This is why already in Parliament, here in Europe, they are discussing the common debt. Meaning, instead of having each country in Europe presenting themselves in the market to sell their bonds, you would have a single European bond market. These are all things that we can all see and that a lot of people don't talk. Look, I keep saying Farage will be happy. He short sold the pound once before. Yes, look, Mithil, there will always be people profiting on this. Come read. Like Greece all over again. No, much worse. Much worse. And remember, Portugal was also very badly hit, and I felt it on my back by all of the financial crash of the 2000s. Okay, I felt it. It was not funny. Okay, my pay was frozen for almost 10 years. 10 years. Almost. Okay, but the past is the past. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is this. And I'm going to talk about the UK in this moment. What Andy Burnham does in the next weeks will dictate what he's doing. If he's trying to pander to the Americans, this is not going well for the UK. If the UK simply follows the lead of the rest of Europe, even if right now you lose some money, but if you follow the lead of Europe, then the UK can get on the bandwagon. But remember this, if you see the American market crash, remember that the UK will lose a lot. Indeed, Akmel. Okay, I'm also going to finish the stream. It's almost 8 o'clock. I need to have my dinner. Folks, I would like to thank you all for coming. I would like to thank you all for being here. I would like to wish you a great weekend. Thank you all for coming to the stream. Mithro, Cumry, Billy Kershaw, Viper Scott. I don't think I forgot anyone. Okay, and anyone that was in the chat just lurking, it's all good. You know, I sometimes also lurk in chats. I would like you to have a great weekend, okay? And please be safe. And to all of you, yes, Mithro. Yes, I think Burnham is smart. Let's hope he takes the good decisions, folks. Thank you all for coming, and I wish you a great weekend. And please, folks, stay safe. Let me write this, and out of the heat, because this is really getting to be too much, even for me. You know, allergies, and heat, and bloody heat, and a bloody hat on my head, and all of this shit. Ugh. Folks, thank you all for coming, and have a great weekend. Okay? Bye, Sass. Bye, Viper, Billy, Mithro, Comrie. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for coming. Folks, hope to catch you all